from your perspective, there were some allegations that were made about people that were just standing on their lawn videotaping that were arrested. We didn't see any of that video that was provided, but what's your understanding of what happened?
So, without having seen all of the video, I'll explain my perspective on what takes place on a crime scene. In that particular incident, officers responded to a scene where they were investigating a male who had been shot. So, in the furtherance of that investigation, you have to secure the crime scene, which means you have to put up tape, and there's a litany of reasons why that has to take place for the security of the scene, so that, you know, hopefully we can make an arrest and prevent further violence in the city. So when we put up that crime scene tape, that's part of our crime scene to determine who or what took place and who was at fault and who committed the crime. So when folks don't listen to the officers on scene and they go past the crime scene tape, they're in effect causing issues further down the road to hopefully secure not only an arrest but a conviction of whoever committed that crime. So if somebody goes beyond the crime scene tape, in essence, they're breaking the law. And what we try to do is move folks out of the crime scene when possible by asking them. And in this particular case, it didn't appear as though that's what took place as far as people moving outside of the crime scene when asked.
When was the tape put up? Because I didn't see the tape at all.
I'd have to look at all the videos, but the video that I saw, there was crime scene tape up.
So that was kind of...
Correct. It was kind of off the camera.
Right. The kid that was arrested in front of the house, I guess this is the only one that we saw in the video. It seems like he was trying to help the victim.
Okay. You're referring to when the officers first got to the scene?
When they first got to the scene, yes.
Okay. So the individual that was there at that point, I'll go back to what I just said a minute ago. When we first arrive on scene, if we have somebody who had just been, in this particular case, shot, we don't know who the suspect is. We don't know if the suspect's still on scene. We don't know anything about what took place, and we're trying to find all that out, along with rendering aid to a victim who, had, in this case, had just been shot. So what we're trying to do is ask people to step back so we can kind of gauge what's happening and what's going on. In that particular case, the individual was not listening to the officer. He was detained. He was ultimately not arrested. He was detained and moved off the scene so we could secure the crime scene, and then he was released.
Neighbors tell us that the two people that originally called the police were two of the people that got arrested. Can you confirm that or maybe give us some context into that?
I don't know if that's fact or not. It very well may be. I don't know who called without having the reports in front of me, so I couldn't tell you that answer.
But that's different than the person you were just referring to.
I don't know if he's one of the individuals that called, but the individual that you were just speaking about was detained, removed from the crime scene, and then ultimately released.
Well, there's charges for the others that are arrested, obstructing justice, and another one. They're calling for those charges to be dropped. Is that something you guys are entertaining, or you guys are continue to pursue?
I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm just going to reinforce what Chief Singletary said the other day. At no point in time is it ever okay for somebody to put hands on an officer, especially any time for that matter, but especially when we're trying to render aid to a 16-year-old who had just been shot. There's absolutely no room for that. If, for whatever reason, you or anybody you know happens to be on a scene where there's officers trying to conduct an investigation and you don't agree with what's taking place or you don't understand what's going on and you have questions, dial 911, step aside, listen to what the officers are saying if possible, step aside, and ask for a supervisor to come to the scene. It's never okay to put your hands on a police officer, ever.
That was brought up this morning about the officer being assaulted, and some of the neighbors and the people who were there say that that didn't happen. So we're kind of
that's a pending court case, and all that information will come out. I know there's been some FOIL requests put forward, and eventually all the video will be released through the FOIL requests, I'm assuming, and I'll let that answer itself.
You feel pretty confident, though? I mean, the chief said officers were assaulted. The release said officers were assaulted.
I'm going to back up exactly what the chief said.
Are you finding more and more of this at certain crime scenes or calls where
You know, without being out on the road all the time, I'm going by reports, and I just think that I'm going to further what the chief said again and what I just said a few minutes ago. It's never okay to put hands on a police officer, ever. You should follow the orders of a police officer because they're trying to do an investigation. They're trying to conduct an investigation and potentially save somebody's life depending on the scenario. In this particular case, the individual lived, but you know, it's a shooting. It's a serious crime, and we're trying to protect life, protect property, protect and serve this community, and it's hard to do that when you're being interfered with by individuals at the scene. Again, if you don't understand what's going on or you don't agree with what's going on, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Keep videotaping, step aside, call 911 and ask for a supervisor.
Just want to get some clarification because you called it a crime scene. Kid was shot somewhere else. He pedaled his bike to Pennsylvania and ultimately ended up there. How does that become a crime scene?
I'll ask you, how do the officers know that when they first get there? Right? They don't. And when they're trying to get that information and they have people screaming at them, walking into the scene, they don't know what happened. They don't know where it happened. And they can't ascertain that until they're able to actually sit there and have a discussion with individuals at the scene. And they can't do that when they're being yelled at, screamed at, and they're trying to deal with people walking into the scene. It very well could have happened right there, and people could be stepping on evidence or, you know, anything of that nature. So that's my whole point. We don't know what's happening until we conduct an investigation, and it's almost impossible to do that when you're trying to deal with people that have nothing to do with that scene, but they're getting in your way. It makes it incredibly difficult for officers who are already doing an incredibly difficult job.
So we saw a 4+ minute video. I watched it like 5 times, didn't see anything that, to me, as a civilian or as a journalist, was out of the ordinary. I guess if you saw that, if you were to give your assessment of what happened in that 4+ minute clip, was it kind of by the book? I guess as far as
I'd want to be honest with you, to answer that question, I'd want to look at all the video ahead of time and have a full understanding of exactly what took place.
First question I asked the folks with Free the People ROC, have you reached out to police? And they said no. Has police reached out to them? Is there going to be any meeting of the two? Because they have their allegations against police, and police have, you know, your set of facts of what took place. Will there be a meeting anytime soon?
I have no idea. I don't expect that we're going to do anything outside of the lines of the investigation at this point, and let the process go through the court system. Anybody have anything else? All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.